So you've gotten your PPP money. Congratulations. And I know you're hoping that that loan will be forgiven, and I hope it will be also. But when it's forgiven, how do you treat that in your accounting records? So what we're going to see in this very brief presentation is there's a couple of options for how to deal with the forgiveness of the PPP loan. And the first option we're going to look at comes from ASC 470. The second option comes from ASC 958-605. So let's start with ASC 470. And in the FASB codification, it tells us that when you receive a loan, you're obviously going to record the debt on the balance sheet. And then if you are legally released from that obligation, then you can remove the debt from the balance sheet. And that guidance comes from ASC 405. But you have to be legally released in order to take the debt off the books. Now, if you look at the codification, which provides us with GAAP, there's really no direct guidance that deals with a situation where a government loans money to a for-profit entity and then the government forgives the loan. So people like me have been looking at the codification and trying to find specific guidance that deals with this situation, and it's simply not there. But FASB recently came out and said even if you are a for-profit entity, we're going to allow you to follow the not-for-profit guidance. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, the not-for-profit guidance, it fits this situation. In other words, this PPP program it's really more or less a conditional grant. So the government loans you money with conditions that you keep people employed and some other provisions in there. If you meet those conditions, then you'll be forgiven of the loan. If we look at the nonprofit guidance, it comes from ASU 2018-08, and it was codified as 958-605, but what it says is that in a conditional grant, there are stipulations. So in the PPP program, there are stipulations, there are conditions that you must follow in order to be forgiven. In the standard, they call these conditions barriers. But if you satisfy or you overcome the barriers, you satisfy the conditions, then you're going to recognize revenue. So you recognize revenue when you substantially meet the conditions. The revenue also could potentially be recognized in stages, in other words, as you spend the money. But a word of caution here. You really don't want to recognize revenue until you substantially meet the conditions of the PPP loan agreement. In other words, until you know you are forgiven. And at that point, then you can take the debt off the books and recognize revenue. Now, when you recognize revenue, it's going to appear in the income statement as grant revenue. And I'd just show it as a separate line, and I'll show you in a moment what that would look like. But you're going to have grant revenue, and what you would not do is offset that amount against your expenses. So you're going to have your expenses, and then you're going to have the gross amount of the loan that has been forgiven. And on the income statement, you could just show it as PPP grant, and that'll work, or you could call it forgiveness of the PPP loan, something like that. And I think I would show this as a separate line, especially if it's material. One related question is, should you impute interest for the below market rates? And the short answer is no. And if, in the codification, there's an exception. If the government sets the interest rate, then there's no requirement to impute interest. In summary, you can follow the guidance in ASC 470, record the debt, and then remove the debt if you are legally released of the obligation. The second option, and the one that I like better, is following ASC 958-605. Treat it as a conditional contribution to your business. And as you meet the conditions, as you overcome the barriers, recognize the revenue at that time, and it will appear on your income statement as just PPP grant or something like that, and then the loan would obviously come off the balance sheet. So I hope that helps you. I hope your loan is forgiven. I hope everything goes well with your business in the days ahead as we deal with COVID-19. So take care and bye now.